Eyo, let's talk about being an ugly woman in a society and how they are being treated in a society. Because I come across this video of this creator that talk about how she knows that she is ugly and she has accepted the fact that she is ugly and she's not a beauty standard. When I go through the comment section, it was from the ranges of, oh no, learn to love yourself, to people that were calling her that she's not ugly, that she just has not taken care of herself very well. A lot of these comments may come from a place of good intention, yeah. But some of us, I think we feel very uncomfortable when the word ugly comes into play. The same way a lot of people feel very uncomfortable when we are talking about racism. Some people just want to pretend that these things does not exist, that racism does not exist. There's nothing like being ugly in the society. Everyone just wants to turn a blind eyes to this kind of conversation. Anything that makes people feel uncomfortable, they just want to pretend and duck their head in the sand as if it does not exist. So that creator made a follow-up video was like, no, I know that I'm ugly and I know how I've been treated all my life because I don't fit the beauty standard. And you people cannot gaslight me about my lived experience. And that got me thinking about how we have all been guilty of this one way or the other. Even when our intention was not to dismiss people's lived experience, we have done it one way or the other, consciously, sometimes unconsciously. So let's get into this video about ugly and how people go through life when they are not the beauty standard, especially how women goes through life not fitting the beauty standard.
Maybe you're not pretty. So what? I'm a horrible woman and I make content for other horrible women, and my objective is not to convince you that you are in fact pretty or to reassure you that you're attractive or to try and expand the definition of beauty to include you. My end game is to hopefully get you to care less about whether you're attractive or not, and to hopefully make you angry about how much mental space and emotional energy you've been conditioned to put into the topic. I don't know if you guys understand how serious I am about being a horrible, mean woman, but I really am, because when women talk to me about feeling like they're ugly, I have the same impulse to assure them that they're not, but my preferred response is, maybe you are ugly, so what? And even for a self-described horrible woman, I know this seems really harsh, but the truth is that I don't think the solution to us as women being overly preoccupied with whether or not we're attractive is to constantly be reassuring ourselves and each other that we are attractive. It's to stop caring about whether or not we're attractive. And I know this is a lot easier said than done, but like a lot of things, it gets easier if you get mad about it. We're not born with an innate predisposition to being overly concerned with superficial things or obsessing over the minute details of our appearance. Most men, when they have a breakout, not reaching for the concealer to cover it up, and that's mostly not because they've gone on a self-help journey where they've learned how to love their acne, and if they even thought about it, they probably don't like it very much, but they don't feel the need to do anything about it because it's not taking up a bunch of space in their heads. And the reason that it's not is not because men are more high-minded than women, it's because they haven't been conditioned into the idea that this is of supreme importance to them. They're allowed to just be in whatever state they're in. And that's what I want for women. I want us to be free to be, and to be not so burdened by concerns about our appearance. And I think a solution that involves learning to love the way you look or learning to see yourself as beautiful is kind of unachievable for a lot of people, and then when we struggle with it, it just deepens the feelings of inadequacy that we have, and also it kind of gives credibility to the idea that beauty is important. And I think that it would be more helpful to us to think about whether or not we're beautiful less. Being preoccupied with our looks because we think they're not good enough to being preoccupied with our looks because we're trying to reinterpret them as good enough is still just being preoccupied with our looks. I think what might be more productive and achievable is recognizing that you are living in a rigged system that has had to condition you into seeing how you look as a matter of supreme importance, so that you will put mental space, emotional energy, and material resources into the matter. And get pissed off about it, because getting to a place of self-love might be really difficult, but getting angry at a system set up to screw you over and refusing to think the way it wants you to think can be really motivating, or at least I found it to be. You don't have to love yourself in order to stubbornly refuse to hate yourself. And I know, again, all of this is so much easier said than done, but it's definitely helped me, because I spent most of my adolescence and young adult life refusing to wear shorts because I thought there was something wrong with the way my legs looked. And I live in a really hot part of the world as well, so I was unnecessarily uncomfortable and hindered for a lot of my life over a really superficial thing. And the thing that ultimately helped me get free of this was not deciding that actually my legs were beautiful or expanding the definition of beauty to include them. It was confronting the possibility that I might have really unsightly, unattractive legs that don't fit the beauty standard, but so what? Even if there is something wrong with my legs, I still have as much right as anybody else to move around the world dressed for comfort and to be free of the burden of obsessing over them. The path to freedom for me was not learning to think more positively or more kindly about my legs. It was getting really annoyed at how much I was burdened by thinking about my legs and deciding on principle to try not to think about my legs. And now I'm in my 30s and it's just normal for me to not think about my legs, and I live in shorts.
I came across this creator and she talks openly about her life as an ugly woman with so much clarity and self-awareness that I literally had to stop in my tracks and watch all of her videos. I'll put an example here.
I had to make myself okay with being ugly to heal. When I was doing affirmations in the mirror, that's when I would say, my most hideous.
And I want to try to articulate something that I feel like so many people feel, but hardly ever slow down enough to analyze, which is this deep, socially conditioned discomfort that we have with people self-identifying as ugly. It makes us uncomfortable to acknowledge that ugliness is a real lived identity. We don't treat it like something systemic, we treat it like a self-esteem issue that we need to fix or they need to fix. Especially, they need to fix it. Do affirmations, get a haircut, get a wig, put on makeup, learn how to whatever. What we're really saying when we do that though is like, make yourself easier to look at and then you can get better treatment. And if you can't, well then you just simply deserve whatever treatment you get. Because what this creator talks about, what really challenged me, is what she calls ugly treatment. The kind of treatment where you're handed the jobs that nobody really wants to do, you're in the cleanup crew, you're a background person, you're basically the person that people overlook until they need something done. You have to be the best version of yourself to be tolerated, because if not, people just say you bring the vibe down. If you talk about your lived experience, they say that you're negative. So you cannot just exist, you have to overperform just to be seen as enough. And all of that starts before you even say a word, literally just from how you look. That is real. So I had to ask myself, like, why do we have this deep need or like instinct to correct someone when they call themselves ugly? Because I felt myself wanting to do that when I saw her video for the first time. Like, I was in the comments about to write, "You're not really ugly," but I stopped so I could hear her. Because I realized that everybody was rushing to say you're beautiful in your own way, or of course you're beautiful, or you need to just like have some respect for yourself or love yourself or whatever. And honestly, I think the reason why people do that is because we've moralized beauty. Like, it's proof of being valuable or deserved. We've made attractiveness the standard for worth, dignity, or even goodness. Like, even in Disney movies, like the ugly character always had to do the most to prove that they were worth love. The ugly characters are like villains all the time. Like Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame wasn't evil, but he was treated that way because of how he looked. Don't you realize that that's actually conditioning? The conditioning starts when we're kids. We have been taught to associate beauty with goodness our entire lives. It's in religion, it's in fairy tales, it's in Disney movies, it's everywhere. It's in media. So when someone openly identifies as ugly, it's almost as if we feel like they're saying that they're less human. Our performative empathy rushes in to patch that up. But it's to make ourselves feel better, even if it's denying her truth and invalidating her experience. Because if we have to admit that there are ugly people in this world, we have to then identify and examine how we treat those people. And nobody really wants to do that. Here's what I realized when I actually sat with her videos instead of jumping in to comment and correct her or scrolling or whatever. If we refuse to let anyone be ugly, then we're also refusing to look at how society treats people who fall outside of beauty norms. When we rush in to tell her to correct herself, to change herself, and to fix it, we're perpetuating those same harmful beauty norms and standards. We know that there are clear hierarchies of beauty that intersect with body type or weight, class, race, gender, and it dictates who gets grace, who gets safety, who gets chosen, and who gets ignored. And that's what she's talking about. Not self-hate, but systemic treatment. And you don't know what kind of work she's done to love herself or to like herself or whatever. So even speaking on that is just weird. I felt really challenged by her content, but in a really good way, because it forced me to confront my own social conditioning. I'm not the kind of person who treats people differently based on perceived attractiveness, but I did feel the knee-jerk reaction to correct her when she said that she was unattractive, and that's an issue. I don't want to be part of the culture that confuses compassion with beautification. I want to just be able to hold space for what she's saying. But I think we should listen and amplify voices like hers, because as she said in one of her videos, if we can have a conversation about pretty privilege, we can also talk about ugly treatment, because both exist, and not talking about it or basically like invalidating it only helps the people who benefit from it the most.
Where are the men that like mid looking black woman? Key an experiment. I'm trying to prove somebody wrong.
This woman's video went viral, and it had the reaction that you would pretty much expect. Basically, there were a bunch of people in the comments, mostly women, but also a lot of men too, saying, "Oh my God, why would you talk bad about yourself? You're so pretty. You're so gorgeous. It's so sad that you're talking down on yourself." But I actually watched her follow-up video that I thought was very interesting. And she mentioned in her follow-up video how she felt like all of the people coming to the comments to immediately tell her that she was actually attractive and what she would consider gaslighting her were extremely unhelpful. And she noticed this every time that a woman comes on and says that she's unattractive or kind of gives her experience of being a, mid woman or living in a society where they don't meet conventional beauty standards. Suddenly everyone kind of comes to the comments to say, no, you're wrong. You actually are really pretty. You're gorgeous. Why would you think badly about yourself? And it's like, maybe because of the society that we live in. And she brought up another very interesting point. She kind of brought up how, okay, all of you guys are saying that I'm so beautiful, that I'm so pretty, but none of my life experience has matched that. I go online, and the women that I see who are able to make it in content creation, most of the time, there's always going to be exceptions, but most of the time are women who fit conventional beauty standards. They're women who are skinny. They're women who have really nice hair, who have a symmetrical face, who don't have the same skin color as me. And no matter what type of video they post, the comments are just, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're so pretty. Wow, girl, you're so gorgeous." And they don't have to make a video talking about their experience being unattractive to get those comments. In fact, a lot of times with very conventionally attractive people, they can make a video about anything, and the comments will just be all, "You're so gorgeous, you're so hot." And I have noticed a lot of times that the women who will make these videos about their experience being unattractive, all of the comments will say, "No, girl, you're so gorgeous." But then if you go to their page, none of the other videos that they post have people calling them gorgeous, at least a lot of the time. This woman also talked about how everyone is saying in the comments that she's gorgeous, but none of her experiences in real life have shown that. When I go out and I try to meet people, I never get the attention of the types of guys that I'm interested in. They're never interested back. She doesn't get random women coming up to her and complimenting her and calling her pretty, whereas a lot of other women do get that. And I could not agree with what she was saying more, because this happens just so much, where women will get online just wanting to vent about their real lived experiences of not being conventionally attractive, and then they just get all of these people telling them that no, they actually are gorgeous and they just need more confidence, and why do they actually feel that way about themselves? And I do understand why this happens, because a lot of times when someone is talking negatively about themselves, we want to make them feel better. We want to make them feel happy. We want to validate them and affirm them. And it's not necessarily that people are lying. I don't think people are actually lying. I just think that when someone calls themselves unattractive, a lot of people tend to look at that person and kind of downplay the qualities about them that might not make them, conventionally attractive. Also, I do think that attractiveness is subjective to a degree. Even if you are someone who's very unconventional looking, there's always going to be people who do find you attractive. And so it might just be that the people commenting genuinely do find that woman attractive, but the people who don't find the woman attractive are just going to kind of like leave the post alone because they don't want to be negative or rude or mean. And I think the reason it's unhelpful is because a lot of times when people come on and they're talking about their experience, what they're actually talking about is not having pretty privilege. Having pretty privilege is a different thing than some people calling you pretty. A lot of people do actually find average people attractive, but there is a bar that you have to reach to actually get pretty privilege. But I do think that we're just doing a disservice to women and just people in general by pretending like these standards don't exist, pretending like pretty privilege doesn't exist, pretending like everyone is going to get the same treatment based off of their looks, because it's just not true. I also think we need to get away from this myth that you can't be average looking and also be attractive. Like, I'm somebody who I consider myself average looking, but I also think that I'm like pretty cute. And I notice that every time that I say that online, that I say that I'm average looking, a lot of people will kind of come and be like, "You're not average looking, you're really hot. Like, why would you say that about yourself?" But I do think that I'm closer to average, because most of the people that I found super hot in my life have not found me super hot. Or maybe they do find me kind of cute, but they have so many other options and I haven't been the priority. Now, this isn't true all of the time, and that's the relationships that I've had have been people that have reciprocated that interest. But I also think it's kind of fine to acknowledge like where you stand on the physical attractiveness this hierarchy. And unfortunately, when it comes to societal beauty standards, it is kind of a hierarchy. And looks aren't the only thing that I've gone for. There's been plenty of people that I've genuinely fell for because they just had great charisma or an amazing personality, or we just vibed so well. But I also think it's okay to kind of accept when you are average. And I think a lot of people don't like that.
Women coming on here and talking about what it's like when society has deemed you as ugly, only to get the response of like, no, I don't think you're ugly. Like, you shouldn't call yourself that. And like, you're like actually really pretty. I think that we as a society are very uncomfortable when the topic centers around ugliness. This world has set up an ugly, pretty dichotomy, and we only ever want to hear from the people that we understand to be ugly when they are talking about prettiness. This is why we can talk about pretty privilege and unrealistic body standards in media all the time, and it doesn't cause this level of backlash. People viewed as ugly are otherized in our society, and when I say otherized, I mean that in a very existential way, in that we do not consider their subjecthood. We conceive of ugly people as existing only in relation to pretty people, and we expect that that relation is jealousy. So to hear ugly people expressing valid grievances about prettiness does not nearly upset our social understanding of how ugly should act as ugliness, talking about what it is to actually experience being ugly. Whether or not you think or are willing to say that someone is ugly has absolutely no bearing on the fact that they have experienced being ugly in this society. And the only reason you feel that that is necessary to bring up is because you desperately do not want us to have a conversation about ugliness from the mouths of people who are primarily affected by it. A conversation that is absolutely necessary if we actually want to dismantle the system of hierarchy that has been created, rather than just simply increasing the amount of people that are included in the privileged sphere.
Okay, serious question. What exactly do you guys gain from living your life with your head down? I've seen a lot of comments where that girl was making a video saying, I'm ugly. Does anyone want an ugly girl? A lot of people were in the comments saying, it's good to be realistic. It doesn't get you anywhere being delusional. A lot of us are ugly. A lot of us aren't beautiful. A lot of us don't meet society standards. So we need to accept it and be real with ourselves. What exactly do you gain from living life with your head down, feeling less about yourself, except for mental health issues, depression, and low self-esteem? And everyone is always talking about society, and I don't get that, because you don't encounter the whole world in your lifetime. As adults, you get to foster and create your community. I literally handpick everyone who I'm around as an adult. I handpick everyone I engage with for extended amounts of time as an adult. And when you believe you're not worth anything, you're less than, and you're in a constant state of comparing yourself to the next woman, you won't even take care of yourself. You won't do anything to pour into yourself. You're never going to get your hair done. You won't get dressed up every once in a while. You won't do your makeup. You won't do self-care. You won't do things to pour into yourself because you already believe you've lost the battle and you're not worth anything. I get to pick my life. I have people around me who think I'm gorgeous, who love me to death. Are there people on earth who would think I'm ugly as hell? Yes. But do I engage with them? Am I around them? No. So what's the issue? Like, I really don't get that.
Quick story, the year 2024, I got the opportunity to relocate for a job for a period of time in a country that people that looks like me were very few and in between. I'm a black girl for reference. So in my home country, I'm not really the beauty standard per se, but when it comes to physique, like status and all of that, I will say I meet the beauty standard, because in my country the beauty standard is all over the place. But when it comes to complexion, I don't really meet my home country beauty standard. So when it comes to the country that I was, I realized that I was fat in that country, whereas in my home country, I'm skinny. I'm not even like an average body type. So when it comes to beauty standard and all of this, it's all over the place. With that being said, there is also a standard beauty standard that is, I would say, generally accepted. Well, depending where you are. If you are in like in a Western country and all of that, if you're a white skinned woman, fair, at least in most of the Western and European countries, you fit the beauty standard. But when it comes to Africa, most African countries they don't really. If you are too skinny, like no, you will not meet the beauty standard in most of African country. But you will meet the beauty standard when it comes to complexion, because most of African countries are really, really, really colorist. The colorism that runs in African countries, it will even surprise you, because you would think that because most of African countries are dark skinned, that you will not place our hierarchy on fairness, but it is what it is. So I say all of this to say that personally, I know that I don't meet a beauty standard in my own country, in most of European country, and definitely not Asia continent. I don't meet the beauty standard because it's selective. I feel like in America, I kind of meet the beauty standard when it comes to physique, because I have the acceptable body type. But when it comes to face card and the skin tone, I'm dark skin, so obviously we know the colorism that runs in America and most of the European country and even in African continent. So I have accepted that, and I feel like I've made peace with that. I will never consider myself the beauty standard, but that does not mean that I consider myself ugly. So I say all of this to say that everyone has different opinion about whether you are pretty or whether you are not pretty, and it depends the country, the continent, and the space that you find yourself with. And we should know that a lot of people don't meet the beauty standard, and some people have come to terms and they have accepted that, and they are living their truth. They are living their truths. They accepted that they will never meet the beauty standard, and they are okay with that. So it is not our place to try to gaslight them, to tell them that no, they are beautiful, they should make their hair. Okay, if you want someone to make their hair for you to accept that they are beautiful, that means you have already validate what they are saying. They don't meet the beauty standard, because people that meet the beauty standard, whether they made their hair, whether they put on makeup or whatever, they are already beautiful. So if I have to go through the process of making my hair, getting my hair done, fixing my lashes, doing all of those stuff, that is already proving that I don't meet the beauty standard. I think I have to make one thing clear, that this video is not about women that go about their life wallowing in self-pity. They don't want to take any chance because they feel like they are not beautiful, so they are not even trying to live their life. This is about people that comes to terms with the way, the hierarchy of the beauty standard in the society, and they have accepted, and they are living their true life, and they have accepted, they are living their authentic life. This video is about those people. They have made peace with the society, and they are going through life living their peace. The fact that they don't meet beauty standard does not stop them from living their life, from achieving what they want to achieve. They just find it difficult in most spaces, but it does not stop them from living their life. I would love to hear your thought about this video. What are your thoughts on beauty standard? Do you meet it? You did not meet it? Do you think society is unfair to people, that women's that don't meet the beauty standard? Go down in the comment section. Please share your thoughts. Give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you in my next video.